You went to bed fine. No late caffeine, no obvious disaster. You did the usual things right. Then, somewhere around 3 a.m., you're awake. Not rested awake, not ready to start the day awake, just awake. And now you can't fall back asleep. Your mind is on, your body is on, but sleep is all gone. If this keeps happening, I want to tell you something. Sometimes it's not just stress, and sometimes it's not just sleep hygiene. There might be a specific biological reason for that kind of wake up. I'm Tom Smoot, your favorite biomedical engineer and former special operations soldier. Before I get into the science, if you're watching this right now because you can't sleep, I want to tell you something first. Sleep doctors usually recommend this actually. When you're stuck awake and frustration is building, the advice is to get up, change your environment, and occupy your mind with something calm for about 15 minutes. Don't lie there fighting it. So watch this video. That's not avoidance, you're actually following the doctor's orders. Now, let's talk about why you might be awake in the first place. Because there might be a real biological reason, and understanding it is pretty helpful. So today we're going to talk about histamine. Specifically, what's called a histamine dump, and why it might be the reason you're waking up in the middle of the night feeling wired when you should be sound asleep. So when you hear histamine, you probably think allergies, right? Runny nose, itchy eyes, miserable spring. That's fair. Histamine does drive the allergic response. But histamine is a neurotransmitter. It is a signaling molecule your brain uses to regulate something very specific, whether you're awake or asleep. There's a structure in your brain called the tuberomammillary nucleus, or the TMN. Hope I got that right. It is a big word. It's hard to say, but it's a small region. It sits in the back of the hypothalamus, the posterior. And the neurons in the TMN have one primary job. They pump out histamine to keep you alert and conscious. Here is a critical detail, though. During sleep, TMN activity drops to almost zero. During REM sleep, the dream state, it goes completely silent. So histamine is essentially your brain's stay awake switch. And when that switch gets flipped at the wrong time, your sleep gets interrupted. Now, your body runs on a circadian rhythm. It's our internal clock. That clock affects when different systems are more active during the day and the early morning. One of the systems involved is the mast cell system. Those are the special immune cells that release and store histamine. Research shows that mast cell histamine release follows a circadian pattern with a natural uptick in the early morning hours. For most people, this is just background noise. The body compensates and sleep continues. But for some people, and this includes people with histamine intolerance, people who ate high histamine foods close to bedtime, people who are under chronic stress, and a significant number of people who've experienced a trauma. But for all those people, that early morning rise can be enough to wake up the TMN and activate the arousal system, pulling you out of sleep. Then you're wide awake, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., that buzzy, wired, can't get back to sleep feeling. That's your brain being told by histamine that it's time to be awake. It doesn't matter that it's the middle of the night. Those mast cells don't know what time it is. So let's talk about what this actually feels like, because the symptoms here are very specific. It's worth knowing. A histamine dump at night can look like waking between 1 and 4 with no obvious reason, racing or elevated heart rate when you do wake, skin flushing, itching, feeling of heat, low-grade anxiety or a sense of alertness that feels almost like it's artificial, headaches that appear overnight or first thing in the morning, nasal congestion that gets worse, GI discomfort, especially if you ate. Here's the deal. I'm not diagnosing you. That's not what I do. But if you're seeing yourself in this list, here's how I'd frame it when you talk to your doc. Say, I'm waking consistently in the early morning hours with an elevated heart rate and symptoms that look like a mild histamine response. Is it worth checking my DAO enzyme levels or discussing a low histamine diet to see if there's a connection to my sleep disruption? They might also bring up antihistamine medication if you have seasonal allergies. But this DAO I just mentioned, it's diamine oxidase. It's the enzyme that breaks down histamine in your gut. Low DAO means histamine from food builds up in your system longer than it should. That's a real measurable thing, but I wouldn't exactly go demanding it. That's more lab work, and healthcare is expensive for all of us in the US. Which reminds me I should really rant about that in another video. But there's something else I didn't mention because I didn't see it in the research. Ladies, specifically, if you've been told this is just menopause, please tell me in the comments. I want to hear that. There's some overlap in this area, at least from a symptom standpoint. Your input might be able to help me look for better answers in the research that does exist. And the ladies can vouch for this. We're not very good at including them in medical research to begin with. Now, all genders rely on melatonin as a sleep aid, and we should talk about that too. Melatonin is a timing signal. It's something your body makes to tell your brain when to expect sleep. It does not suppress histamine. It does not calm this TMN in your brain. If histamine is actively driving your arousal system at 3 a.m., melatonin has nothing to do with that. This is why a lot of people, especially people in the histamine intolerance community, report that melatonin either does nothing for their night waking or in some cases might make it seem worse. There's actually a physiological basis for this. Melatonin and histamine interact through separate but overlapping pathways. Stacking a timing signal on top of an active arousal signal doesn't stop the active arousal signal. What does work? And maybe I should do a little separate video on sleep aids, but what does work involves 1, reducing the histamine load coming in through diet or DAO support. 2, understanding which receptor is driving your specific symptoms, H1, H2, or H3, which stand for the different histamine receptors. These behave differently and respond to different interventions. 3, addressing the upstream drivers or the things that happen before any of this ever starts. That's stress, gut health, and in some populations, trauma. Because the histaminergic system and the stress response are deeply entangled. I'm telling you this as a combat veteran with post-traumatic stress. That's way too much to fit in this video, though. One more thing, very quickly, for anyone watching this at 3 a.m. specifically. Once you've given your mind something to do for about 15 minutes, go back to bed. Don't check your phone again. Don't start another video. The goal was to break the frustration loop, not replace it with a screen loop. You've done the thing. Now go let your body try to sleep again. Anyway, the 3 a.m. wake up is one of the most Googled sleep complaints there is. And the standard advice, which is better sleep hygiene, less caffeine, more melatonin, all of that, that's aimed at a generic solution. If the mechanism is histamine-driven arousal, you need to address the histamine. That starts with knowing this system exists. Now you do. So if this was helpful to you at all, mash those buttons to like and follow along. It literally costs you nothing, and it tells the algorithm this is helpful to people. Just like I'm trying to help us all navigate complex and expensive healthcare, you can help people too. If you were thinking of someone while watching this video, share it with them. Thanks.